Grab a cup of tea or a glass of wine and tune in for Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. On Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, Linda creates sacred space for leading female luminaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. A soulful venue where guests openly share the fears and obstacles they've overcome, wisdom and lessons learned, and the personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic, soulful living.
Welcome to Inspired Conversations. I'm your host, Linda Joy, publisher of the beloved Aspire magazine, about to celebrate her 20th year of inspiring, empowering, and supporting women to live their best lives, to live aligned, authentic, and intentional lives. You can grab your free subscription, and yes, it's still free 20 years later. You can grab your subscription and bonus gifts at subscribe2aspire.com. I'm excited about today's conversation. We're going to be talking about the next evolution of healing, how presence is your greatest power, talking about the topic of grace, and so much more. Joining me today is Dr. Leyden, a pioneering voice in the next evolution of healing, guiding spiritual adventurers and conscious leaders to embody the transformation, miracles, and grace that arise when we align with our divine nature and remember who we truly are. And if you've been following this show for a while, you know this topic is spot on with what I like to bring you. As the creator of the Embodying Grace HeartMap and Mastering Therapeutic Presence program, Lori supports the evolution of presence as the new paradigm of transformation, whether you're navigating personal awakening or leading collective change. Welcome, Lori. I'm so glad that you're here.
Oh, thank you, Linda. It's delightful to be with you and all of this amazing work you've done over these 10 to 20 years, right?
Yeah, time is flying, my friend. But when you really love what you do and you're committed to a mission and it never feels like a job to you, you know how that flows.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. This is bigger than me, as I know your work is even bigger than you. It's like a calling, isn't it?
It is. If you ever told me 20 years ago how my life would turn, I would have told you were a little crazy.
Well, I've been there, my friend. So that feeling. So why don't we talk about a little bit about you and what led, because you're the author of numerous books, including Embodying Grace, Trusting Yourself, Your Life, and Your Divinity. And what led you to this whole line of work?
It was really in an effort to heal my own childhood trauma. And I had started seeking help early in the late 80s, early 90s, and was never really happy with the healing and therapy that I had. So I was always asking the question, what is an easier, more elegant way for us to heal? And then it took a near-death experience in 2003 to really shake things up for me. And at that point, I received several messages from what I call the Divine One Heart. And one was the message to follow my heart wherever it led me. And the other is everything in life is a choice, including taking the next breath. So I have been on a journey of testing this HeartMap material that I've received since 2003 and have been absolutely amazed at everything that supports it. Science is now revealing and supporting what you and I have known and many spiritual adventurers have known over the years, that it is our heart-brain-body connection that offers the healing. And so I can go into more detail with that. I had a series of deep meditations in which I asked this question, what can I do to help people heal more easily? And I received the grace process, which is a formula for healing, which I'm sure we'll dive into. as well as the 5 stages of embodied grace that kind of showed me a path for spiritual healing. And I've been doing this work now since 2003, which then took me around the world to working in post-war genocide and post-school shooting communities. So it has been a deep, deep journey into healing myself. And from that, arising from that, offering a space for other people to step into, to learn and heal themselves.
Mm, yeah, our journeys may be different, but they're similar that we use our mess, our pain, our healing, our transformation to fuel the work we do in the world, right?
Exactly. Yes.
And when I look back, I have a trauma-filled childhood also, so I can relate to many of the things that you said. I can look back now and go, oh, I see why I'm doing the work I'm doing in the world, because I can have more grace, compassion, empathy, because I've had so many, I guess you would call dark experiences, heavy experiences, but I've come out into the light, right? The
Yeah.
healing. We did the work. Who are we not to share that? That's why the radio show is so important to me. We're going to be celebrating 10 years. And I love bringing these conversations with women like you so that that person, that one woman listening right now who is like grace, possibility, healing, they just start to tune in. And to me, that makes everything worth it. Do you feel that way too? I don't
Oh,
have
no.
any regrets or shame anymore about anything in my past. I
Exactly.
yeah,
Because, and, I say this all the time, and I train other people to do this who are going to work in traumatized communities, that our greatest service work in the world is truly being in service to our own healing, because
right.
that sets up a resonance field, and this is backed by science, for other people to step into that healing. And so who do we want to learn and be a guide, but those people who have had experiences similar to ours and who have done the hard work to get to the other side.
And I love what you said. I think you called it the field of resonance. To me, that's how I see it. It's almost like, well, I use different words. I tell my clients this. The divine gave us something, and I call it an inner light. And sometimes life, like our life when we were children, right?
Mm-hmm.
That light gets smothered. And sometimes, I'll speak for myself, we forget that it even exists
Yes.
because of stuff. And then our job, once we become aware that we do have a light, it's like, let's excavate all the muck that is dimming my light. So I tell them,
Mm-hmm.
one spiritual role is to honor your own light. If you do not feed that flame, you can't light the path for anyone else, including
Right.
your own family, even if they're not entrepreneurs or service-based leaders or healers. Just the fact that we want to be a light in our own family. Uh,
Yes.
is
Yes.
that similar to, like, my description, similar to what you mean by the field of resonance? It's that energy we emit.
Yes. And well, so this goes to the work of the HeartMap Math Institute. I'm sure you're familiar with it.
Yes.
And from the work of heart math, I have learned that we really are hardwired for our divinity, and that when our heart brain body connection is regulated and in balance, we literally have access to all of our human divine talents. And so it starts with this embodiment versus simply practicing our spiritual tasks. And this, they talk about how the heart has a electromagnetic field that is 5,000 times greater than the brain, and how this emits out into a field that can literally lift the resonance of the rest of the area that you are in, the people that you're working with. So when we look at this scientific evidence, we see that there are vibrational levels that offer healing, and we can create that within ourselves and in groups and communities. And just imagine if people all over the world could simply regulate their physiology, feel into their light, and know that there's healing that's possible, and it's easier and more elegant than it has been in the past, because we've been locked into this paradigm of healing from brokenness, the belief that we are broken, when the truth is we are whole. And it's that getting back, that journey of getting back to our sense of divinity and the truth of who we are, that is the spiritual journey, if that makes any sense.
It makes complete sense, my friend. And one of the things too that drew me to your work is that for me, grace has played such a role in my life. Grace for myself, grace for my journey, grace for others. But I want to know, and in the next segment, we will dive into the actual 5 stages of embodied grace. But when you talk about embodying grace as a terminology, what's your personal meaning behind that?
Yeah, well, I mean, isn't it interesting? Everyone, the word grace is now in the popular culture, right? And when I received this work 21 years ago, I said, well, what do I call this process? And it said, the message I got was the grace process. And I said, I don't want to use that word because it's too tied to traditional religion. And it's also been taught that we somehow God hands out grace kind of willy-nilly, like there's no rhyme or reason, or that it has something to do with deservability. And what I found was that there were 2 ways that grace dropped in for me. One is in the dark night of the soul, in great physical pain, in over silent retreats, that kind of thing where I noticed grace dropped in when my ego was so exhausted I could not fight or control anymore. And
Mm.
now, on the other hand, when I'm in nature, when I'm working with people, when I'm with my loved ones, grace drops in instantaneously because I'm touching into the high vibrations of gratitude, love, joy, and wonder. And so the choice is, do I want to learn all my lessons through suffer and struggle, or do I want to learn them in partnership and connectedness with the divine? And I know my answer, and I probably know your answer too.
This speaks to my soul. And yes, you do know my answer, my friend. So we're going to continue our conversation. When we come back from a break, I'd love to dive into those 5 stages of embodied grace. And we'll be back in a moment, my friends. I invite you to learn more about Dr. Lori at drloryleyden.com. And of course, grab her book, Embodying Grace, Trusting Yourself, Your Life, and Your Divinity. We'll be right back.
Inspiration for a Woman's Soul. Aspire Magazine, inspiring and supporting women on the path of self-discovery. Claim your free digital subscription today, which includes access to thousands of dollars of personal development bonus gifts from Team Inspiration partners. Claim your Aspire Magazine subscription today at subscribetoaspire.com.
Welcome back. You're listening to Inspired Conversations. I'm your host, Linda Joy. Thank you for circling up with myself and my special guest, Dr. Lori Leyden. And we are about to dive into the 5 stages of embodied grace. And I hand you the stage, my friend.
Thank you, Linda. So I have this, what's called the Embodied Grace HeartMap, which has been developing over the last 20 years. And as I briefly mentioned in the beginning, the first component is being able to regulate our heart-brain-body connection, which I will talk about in a moment. But then, I don't know about you, but when I started my spiritual path, there really was no guidelines or guidepost. I really didn't know if I was on the right path, what I was doing, where I was going. And the more I sat in meditation after my first near-death experience, the more these 5 stages began to form. And so the 5 stages are separation. And so that's the first stage we find ourselves in when we're born. It's that disconnection from the divine into human form, where And you know you're in a sense of separation when you feel disconnected from yourself, from the divine, from other people. When your life is one that you might describe as suffer and struggle, where everything seems really difficult. This is where our core issues really get triggered. Core issues are a decision we make about ourselves that is like absolute, like I'm unlovable, I don't matter, I'm not worthy and deserving, I'm not good enough. Now, we all have aspects of these core issues, but they seem to be, they play a big role in that first stage of separation. And then we move into stirring when the pain of feeling separate begins to crack us, hopefully open. We move into looking outside of ourselves for the answers. I mean, that's what I did. It's like trying to solve the problems and the trauma of my past. And in this stage where discomfort is driving us to read all the self-help books and take all of the workshops and find a guru, and all of that is great, except we tend to get stuck in that stage believing that it's something outside of ourselves. And so if you're having conversations in your head about a particular topic or with a particular person and you're feeling contracted, you're in rumination mode, right? And so there's like this connection between separation and stirring. This is the longest part of our spiritual journey, which is all hopefully in preparation for us to learn to surrender. And by surrender, I don't mean giving up, I mean giving into our divine nature so that we can feel safer on our journey and give up that egoic control that keeps us stuck in that sense of separation and stirring. So surrender is a beautiful place where we begin to experience the infinity circuit. I describe it as this connection with the divine in which there appears to be a giver and there appears to be a receiver. But when we meet in the sweet spot in the middle, there's only love and we're partnering. And that's where the transformation can take place and lead us into the fourth stage, which is stillness, which is that place where we begin to feel connected to our inner divinity, that place where we can trust that whatever we need in the moment is available to us in that divine connection. And this isn't just kind of a woo-woo spiritual top thing, because when I talk about the heart-brain-body connection, when we're living in that place of gratitude, love, joy, and wonder, the heart is sending signals to the prefrontal cortex of our brain and in that communication, we have access to our sense of inner wisdom, intuition, creative problem solving, creativity in general, a sense of connectedness, and even transcendence. And this is the work of HeartMap. Then we move into the fifth stage, which frankly, I don't see a lot of the fifth stage happening yet on the planet, but it will, and that is synergy. And there's internal synergy where I feel connected to all parts of myself. And from that internal synergy, I can reach out and find my tribe, my community, the people who share my passions. And this is how I feel that we're going to create global healing, which is when we learn that internal synergy and we make connections with other people from a collaborative place, not from a transactional place. And that's a whole nother topic. But if you are working on your healing and you have an intention which you've set, I can guarantee you that there's separation and stirring behind what is blocking the healing that you're seeking. So we do a lot of work in identifying and somatically moving from one stage to the next. Is this sounding familiar or?
It really is. And as you were going through the steps, I kept like trying to drop into different times in my life where, ooh, I was in that stage. I was in that stage. So I have all kinds of notes in front of me, and I have your book in front of me too. And so I was like, oh yes, like I never heard them because of course this is your download, but I never
Right.
heard it described this way. But as you described them, I'm like, oh, yeah, that's what it felt like. That's this one. I could actually tie it back to some of my life experiences and how you described it. So this really, the 5 stages of embodied grace really speak to me. I can feel them as truth.
Oh, that makes my heart sing. And it's interesting. So while I call them the 5 stages, we can also be in those states as well. So I know you've done a lot of work on yourself, and you may very well live in the place of surrender and stillness, yet some issue may come up to trigger you into a temporary state of separation and stirring as you deal with whatever that issue or trigger is. So it is not a linear process as we have come to know on our journey.
Oh, believe me, I know. And there are still times, like you're worried about a loved one's health, you become separate, like, and what if this and what if that? And you're out of coherence.
Yes,
That's
yes.
how it feels in my body. And then I go, oh, Lynn, this isn't what you want to call in. Come back to center. Come
Yeah.
back to center. And so, yeah, that was so, I just love that you've been living, teaching, and guiding people to understanding these 5 stages of embodied grief. And I like that you also clarified that it's not linear. We go back and forth because we're human, right? We go back and forth.
Yeah, like I can live in stillness and synergy, and then my neighbor does something silly, and I might get a little triggered for a while.
Yes, that happens to all of us, my friend.
And
And
sometimes it's bigger than that.
in one of the things too, like the cover of your book is stunning because I'm really big in, like I use the infinity symbol as a teaching tool for some of my clients. So when I saw this, it really spoke to me. And then, as you so beautifully shared earlier, that story about how you see the infinity symbol,
Yes.
how it incorporates it. Because I always say to clients when we're talking about manifesting abundance, I'm using that as an example. I go, there's a divine flow of life. When we're in alignment with the truth of who we are, it flows, give, take, receive, back and forth. It doesn't flow. When we go into ego and fear and all that means we're out of coherence. It's like pinching the middle of that down infinity symbol and stopping the flow of life, the flow of
Yes.
divinity to us. And when I started teaching that little pinching thing, they were like, oh my God, I'm pinching off the flow. I go, yes, yes, you are, if you need that as a visual. And they found that really helpful because sometimes it's hard to teach the concepts of all this big stuff, right?
Yes.
When someone's still in the muck, and you and I know what it's like to live in the muck, to find
Yes.
a way out of the muck. So we also know it's possible to come out of the muck.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
And so, I can feel the passion that you have for the work that you do. It's almost like through your darkest days came this beautiful message of love and light.
Well, and I'm so glad you focus on the somatics of everything because um, it's all about how we feel in our bodies. Our bodies are going to tell us whether we're in our egos or our hearts. Um, and also, yes, finding my own healing out of tragedy and trauma allows me to go into these very traumatized communities and hold the vision of hope because I do see miracles that come out of trauma and tragedy. And so it doesn't mean that when your life is in alignment and coherence, that bad things aren't going to happen or challenging things aren't going to happen. But staying in the connectedness allows us to navigate the path, whether it's a health challenge or a relationship challenge or a financial challenge. Um, we're going to face these things. And this might be a little bit of a digression, but I really have an issue with how the way that law of attraction is being taught is actually creates more religious wounding in my mind, because people think, oh, you create your own reality, and if you don't manifest the job or the house or the mate or the whatever, then there must be something wrong with you. All right. And so we know that there are deeper lessons to be learned from this. But I believe that we create our own reality based on how we respond to the challenges that life offers us.
Yes.
And
Instead of reacting and coming out of coherence.
yes, being in the real pinch, Linda.
Yes, yes. We're
Uh,
going to take another next break and come back. Let's continue this conversation and dive into even more, my friend. You're listening to Inspired Conversations. I invite you to visit Dr. Lori Leyden's website, learn more about this transformational work, her offerings, products, and services at drlorileyden.com. And a sacred reminder, as always, the links that I'm mentioning and more are always in the show notes on the platform that you're listening to. We'll be right back, my friends.
Your worth is not determined by the number on the scale. You are enough right now, exactly as you are. If you're like many midlife women, you've thought, if I could just reach my ideal weight, I'd be so much happier. But the truth is, what we're really craving is our own love and acceptance. And Sarah Haas is that guide for your journey. Sarah is a women's weight release expert and body love coach, and walks alongside midlife women ready to say yes to self-care, self-compassion, and body love so they can become the healthy, vibrant, and unapologetically confident women they're here to be. Her holistic approach integrates nutrition, body movement, and self-care to nurture body, mind, and spirit. Visit sarahhaaswellness.com for supportive resources, programs, and more for midlife women ready to elevate their health.
Welcome back. Thanks for joining myself and my special guest, Dr. Lori Leyden, today for this empowering and enlightening conversation about embodying grace, the next evolution of healing, and presence as your greatest power. So we're really diving in here, and I want you to really just place your hand on your heart and just be really present with this conversation, because there's seeds of wisdom that you can tap into, put into action, especially, and use as a healing tool. So, Lori, one of the things that you just talked about, you shared the 5 stages of embodied grace and you walked us through them, but how can we use them as a compass on our path so we kind of can find our way?
Right. Thanks. That's a great question. And that's where the grace process formula comes in. And so, as I mentioned, if you're setting an intention, and I like to set intentions using this sentence, what I want the freedom from X, so I have the freedom to Y. And in that way, we can identify not only what is the problem, but what it's going to look like when the healing is emerging. And so that keeps us usually in a bit of separation and stirring. For example, I had a health challenge this year, and obviously it was I did a lot of ruminating, but because of the work I've already done, I was able to be really present for it and deal with the thoughts I was having about separation and stirring. For example, I recognize, oh my gosh, I'm feeling a little separated from my body right now with this health challenge. I have some judgments maybe about my body. I have judgments about the doctor and the malpractice that occurred, but because I live this heart map, I dived right into the grace process, which again starts with our choice for healing. In this case, obviously, I wanted the freedom from pain, so I had the freedom to live my life joyfully and happily with my body supporting me. So I then had to look at what were all the judgments that I may have had in 4 categories: judgments of myself, judgments of other people, judgments of the circumstance I found myself in, and judgments of the divine. When I was looking at those judgments, that's that negative place. There's a difference between judgment and discernment. Discernment is a neutral assessment of what's happening. Judgments are, for example, my judgments of the doctor and nursing staff who didn't listen to me. And the circumstances that my body was my body betraying me? What did I had to go through all of those things that I knew were causing contraction for me, because I cannot hold on to my egoic control and partner with divine at the same time. So then once we look at those judgments, then we look to see what needs forgiveness in order for this healing to come in. And in my case, I had to immediately forgive the medical institutions, the medical staff, all of the circumstances that led to me having to face 2 surgeries and another near-death experience. But I happily did that when I noticed the contractions, because I didn't want to dwell in my martyr and self-pity place. So then once we open to the forgiveness, which, is not an easy task sometimes, that's where we can cultivate that heart coherence, which I describe as states of gratitude, love, joy, and wonder. And in those states, we are fertile. Our heart-brain-body connection is optimized for us to receive and partner and receive that grace that we're looking for. And so we also have to look at what are the blocks to receiving, right? Because if we still have some core issues, it might be I'm not worthy and deserving of healing, or I don't matter, so my healing doesn't matter. Well, this is where the work is. And so I use emotional freedom techniques, clinical tapping, to loosen up those areas and help us heal the traumatic wounds that keep us out of coherence, and move us from one stage to the next. So I could say, just with this health example, that I could quickly move into surrender and stillness throughout my illness because I practiced this every day. And my healing was more important than any egoic story I could tell about what was happening. So that's kind of a drive-by lesson in how we move from one stage to the next. We've got to look at what is present. Is ego in control, or is my heart in control? And that's what the formula helps us identify. Does that make sense?
Oh, yes, and I loved when you talked about the judgments, right?
Mm-hmm.
Never heard it broken down that way, like self, other. So you look at each aspect, right? Self, other, circumstance, and divine, to kind of like do an inventory to see if you're holding some type of judgment. Is it like an inventory process?
I think that's a great way to put it. And I guarantee you that you will have negative egoic judgments. Some people get confused by that. But there's a difference. Again, if you find yourself ruminating about something and telling yourself stories about something, you're not in a place where you're focused on your healing and what it is that you want. So we somatically release those judgments that are creating contraction. And so, for me, it was um, discerning what was mine to do now. Yes, did I let these doctors know what was going on? Yes. Did I hold them accountable? Yes. At the same time, I was not stuck in that story of martyr and self-pity. I wasn't controlled by that story. It allowed me to much more easily focus on my healing.
Powerful, my friend, powerful. And as someone that's gone through medical processes herself, I can see where we would have those judgments and triggers with the medical and the things we're going through. But as part of our healing, it's so imperative that we clear it.
Yes, yes, yeah. And it doesn't mean that you forget it or that there
No,
are
no.
consequences. Exactly.
And so how, let's say we find a judgment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it may be in one of those categories. How do we shift it? How do we get from judgment to either at least peace or acceptance?
Right. Now, anything that helps you optimize your heart-brain-body connection is important. But so I like to say this is the time to stop your spiritual practices. And everyone goes, oh my gosh, what are you talking about? But the caveat is if you're doing your meditation and your yoga and you get off the yoga mat and you kick the cat or yell at your partner, clearly these spiritual practices are not working. So this is why the embodiment piece is so important, and somatic therapies like EFT, EMDR, and people can also help regulate their physiology with dance, with movement, with music, with sound. I just find EFT very, very effective because what EFT does is it helps you regulate your heart-brain-body connection. This is, a hormonal and scientific, psycho-spiritual, somatic connection that when we are in those places, when we are not contracted, when we feel safe in our bodies, in our hearts, and our minds, that's where we have access to those ahas, that inner wisdom, that intuition, which is so helpful. Because when I come to my own aha, that is much more powerful than anyone telling me or reframing me. So from a physiological state where I feel peace and safety, I can have the thought without it triggering me. And then I can also be open to, for example, one of the many people when I got sick were like, well, it's not fair because you eat really well, you take care of yourself, you exercise, you don't abuse yourself, whatever. I quickly had to, stop any contraction around whether I was worthy or deserving, because it's not about that. It's about how you face the issue. And so being able to, for example, even thinking about how to approach the doctor and his staff, who unfortunately, uh, what shall I say, damaged a certain part of my body. Um, uh, that's a politically correct way of saying that.
Mhm.
I could sit with and have the story in my head around how wrong they were and how could this happen to me and all this stuff. But I would quickly move to stillness because I would use EFT or simply I would use heart coherence to get there and just be like, okay, what's true? What isn't true? What is mine to do right now? What is it that I need to do to put forward whatever the consequences need to be, and then also what is it that I need to do to heal. And when your healing becomes more important than your grief and your trauma, that's where the grace and the healing can drop in.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes, 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 because I've had medical experiences different than yours, but similar in the energy we have to process and the thoughts, right?
Yes, yes,
And making a choice during every moment of my healing to focus on the gratitude of that I'm still here,
yes.
right? Because we can go into the story and the trauma as you
Right.
shared. And my community witnessed me navigate in it. And one of the things that came up in the post, like, you show so much love, grace, and gratitude as you're going through this. And I said, that's choice. I'm
Yes,
choosing that. I am choosing that. And I believe my healing was accelerated because of it, both times, both.
yeah,
But that put me back together a year later. So, and and so I remember someone reaching out, going, may I share your post with my sister-in-law? She's fighting breast cancer, and she's really angry, and which is, of course, she has every right to be.
yes,
But that's what started happening. Like, how are you navigating such a difficult time with grace and love? moment by moment choice, my friends, over and over again. So your story really touched me. We're going to take our final break, and then we're going to come back for the last segment. We'll be back in a moment. I'm with Dr. Lori Leyden. Learn more at drlorileyden.com. Please visit her website, check out her books and programs and offerings. And we'll be right back. Stay with us for the last segment, my friends.
The time is now to deepen your intuition, connect with the archangels, your guides, and own your sacredness so you can live the empowered, inspired life you desire. Intuitive spiritual teacher, healer, and holistic life coach Robin Fitzsimons consciously blends her treasure trove of healing modalities, including Akashic Records, Sui Reiki, and silent counseling, along with working with the angelics to support the divine wellness of her clients' body, mind, and spirit. Through her popular online classes and sacred readings, including shadow work, awakening your intuition, channeled angelic guidance, past life healing, soul recovery, and more, Robin brings women deeper into the truth of who they are in a safe and sacred container. She is the founder of Wellness with Robin in Platteville, Wisconsin, where she offers in-person sessions and classes. Learn more at wellnesswithrobin.com.
You're listening to Inspired Conversations. I'm so glad that you're here with us. With me today is Dr. Lori Leyden. She's the author of numerous books, including Embodying Grace, Trust in Yourself, Your Life, and Your Divinity. So, Lori, in the last segment, you talk about spiritual secrets, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I love this topic because, we've all had the conversation with a friend or even maybe with ourselves, like, I've done all the work, I've done everything, and I'm still stuck.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think that is, and what's often missing that embodiment restores?
Beautiful. So I do believe it's that somatic release. It's the physiological regulation in the body. And if it's not, so stress and trauma cause a brain dysfunction. They create a dysfunction, a dysregulation between the hippocampus and the amygdala. And until that connection is restored, we have these stress hormones running through our bodies. And until we can restore the flow of endorphins that help us feel peaceful and safe in our bodies, even in the presence of memories or challenges, that's where the healing begins. And so unfortunately, if you go to talk therapy and you continue to tell your trauma story over and over again, your body thinks the trauma is still occurring. And so physiologically, you're really not in a state to access your own healing powers. And I believe that is what I'm talking about. And when we talk about this health challenge I recently had, again, people were saying the same thing as they said to you, Linda. And that was because I was able to be fully present in my heart to whatever was going on. And I know might sound strange. I was in extreme pain for 10 months. And, but you've heard that phrase, pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. I believe that, I was in horrendous pain, but I do not believe I suffered because I quickly got rid of the stories I was telling myself about what I was experiencing. I was able to bring my body to regulation as much as possible through the pain. And in that place, I didn't suffer. And so ordinarily, being in the hospital for 3 weeks and all of the things that go on and all of the things that have to happen, I would have been so anxious that it would have been worse. But I just kept focusing on my physiological regulation and my connection with the divine, so that I could, in a sense, float in the arms of that grace and that connectedness. So it comes down to the somatic release part of it. And our therapies now need to catch up. We believe that the fourth wave of therapy, which is emerging now, which is people talking about the vagus nerve and vagus reset and these somatic techniques like EFT and EMDR. But I believe the fifth evolution of psychospiritual healing truly is in presence. And so as I am able to be present to someone who is working on their healing, my presence, as long as I'm in that high vibrational state, is allowing the other person to step into that resonance field of safety for the healing. I don't call myself a healer. I just provide the resonance for healing to take place and for others to find their own inner healing. But that's the biggest challenge right now, is being committed to the embodiment piece.
Yeah, this really resonates. I just had a conversation with a friend, and I'm going to be 63 this year.
Ooh.
Yeah, well, I'm in numerology. I'm a big numerology fan.
Mm.
I'm in my 9-year
Ooh, nice.
cycle. This is a 9-year, and I'm
Mm.
63, which is 9. So I'm in a triple 9-year.
Ooh.
And we were having she's a spiritual adventurer. I love your phrase, by the way. And I said, it's like I finally feel completely embodied. And what I mean completely, like I've come to this place of I am my truth. I am my message. Doesn't mean perfection. It doesn't mean any of that. It just means for a long time I separated aspects of myself.
Yes.
And I'm so done with that. And I just had that. It's so funny. We just had the conversation 2 days ago. So embodiment is my phrase for this year. You know, you pick an intention. And that really resonated what you said. We have to be embodied. And I love seeing all this stuff come out about the vagus nerve, about tapping into the wisdom of our body.
Yes.
Holds so much. It
Yes.
holds so much. And for me, we still got about 3 minutes left. For me, that there was such a disconnect for the first 30 years of my life because of my childhood trauma from my body that I've spent 30 years reconnecting, listening, honoring. I'm at the point now where I honor that connection with my body. Before I was learning to connect with my body. And so that's why I think that embodiment part of your conversation really resonated with me.
I'm so glad.
And we have a few minutes, would you like to leave a closing message, something that you feel led that maybe we didn't cover that you'd like to share with our listeners? We have 2 minutes, so you have plenty of time.
Thank you. Thank you. It's such an honor to be able to hold such a firm space in the belief that we are all completely whole already and divine beings, and we just have to find our way back to that natural, as you said, rhythm in the body. So there is hope. And wherever you're at, I think the 5 Stages of Embodied Grace ebook can help you with that, which I think, Linda, you're going to put some
Link.
resources.
Yes, there's a link in the bio, everyone, that you can get to her book.
Right. And I've also, I think, added another ebook, which is the Embodying Grace Through Presence. What it is that you want to get to is that, can you imagine being in a space of extreme challenge, but be able to be calm, to trust your own heart-brain-body connection, to receive whatever it is that you need to receive in the moment? Can you imagine a world full of people who have that healing? And the most important thing is that your healing matters. I know we briefly talked about that, but imagine that you are important on this planet because your particular healing needs to be healed in the world as well. So this is your greatest service work, is being devoted to your own healing. So know that it's possible. Do look at your I will leave you with this thought, which is so easy to figure out when you're in your ego versus your heart, because when you're in your ego, your breathing is going to be shallow and contracted. You may have a lot of things running through your mind. But when you're in your heart, when you're in coherence, your body is expanded, your breath is deep and full, your mind is quiet. And so at any moment through the day, you can ask yourself, am I in my ego, contracted, or in my heart? And then just take a few diaphragmatic breaths until you feel your body relaxing. And the more that you do that physiological regulation, the more that you can trust it. So please, wherever you are on your spiritual journey, don't dismay. There is becoming now more accepted and proven that this somatic embodiment really does work.
What a beautiful message to leave everyone with, my friend. And I want to invite everyone, visit drloryleyden.com, learn about her books. You can visit her site for free downloadable gifts, learn about her services and more. We all deserve to heal, and it is possible. Lori, thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, it's a delight and a pleasure and an honor.
Until next time, my friends, choose love, choose joy, choose happiness. Blessings, everyone.
Thanks for listening to Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. Join our sacred space every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern and meet leading female visionaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. Inspired Conversations with Linda Joy is a soulful venue where guests share the obstacles they've overcome, along with wisdom and lessons learned on their personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic and soulful living.